Welcome to The Common Bridge, where policy and current events are discussed in a fiercely nonpartisan manner. The host, Richard Helppie, is a philanthropist, entrepreneur, and political analyst who has over 1 million listeners around the world. The Common Bridge is available on Substack.com and draws guests and audiences across the political spectrum.
Hello, welcome to The Common Bridge. The Common Bridge, most popular on Substack.com. Please look us up there. Also on Mission Control Radio, most social media outlets, podcast places of your choice, and YouTube TV channel. Today we've got with you a very broad topic, and it's a very important one. As listeners, viewers, readers, and contributors to The Common Bridge know, United States politics are dominated by two political parties, and reporting's undergone a significant transformation. Well, to talk about that today, our guest, Justin Higgins, is going to cover the polarization in America, his view on the state of reporting, and frankly, whether our future is one of further despair and strife, or perhaps one of finding solutions. And Mr. Higgins has been up close and personal as a very active member of both major political parties. Not at the same time, but both as a Republican and Democrat. We're going to dive into that a little bit too. He is host of Politics Plus Media 101. He draws a distinguished series of guests and has live interviews. We're going to hear about that too. So speaking to us today from Washington, D.C., Mr. Justin Higgins. So Justin, welcome to The Common Bridge. So happy you spent some time with us.
Thank you for having me, Richard. I'm very pleased to be here. I love what you're doing and trying to create a common bridge. So I think that our country could use more of this and more of you.
Well, that's kind of you to say so. Let's all work on this together. Our guests, our audience likes to know a little bit about our guests. So where did you grow up, and maybe what your education was and your career arc, and a little personal insight? And what are you doing today?
Yeah, so today I'm a consultant in Washington, D.C., in the heart of the swamp. But I grew up, back in the day, I grew up in New Hampshire, and my family was a blue-collar working class family. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. My mom was working for the state of Massachusetts, and they instilled a lot of love for America. Obviously, my dad fought for the country, and also giving back to your community. So we were going to the soup kitchen every month with my mom and doing toy drives and wrapping gifts. And that kind of got me interested in giving back to the community. And then, Rich, as you know, for no reason at all, every 4 years, New Hampshire becomes the center of the political universe.
Yeah,
right?
It does. Can't even imagine what it's like up there.
And there's 1 million people, but you have everyone from President Barack Obama to Mike Huckabee to anybody who's running for office. They come to New Hampshire and they shake hands with us. They meet the voters. They answer our questions. And that really impacted me growing up. So then I took all of that experience and switched over and studied some political philosophy at Tufts University, which is a liberal undergraduate school, and melded nicely with my conservative upbringing. But that interaction with all of these politicians, I was hooked. So I just immediately moved to Washington, D.C. And it's really the foundation of what we do on our show as well, trying to create a similar to a common bridge, but bringing these prominent guests to the audience themselves.
Justin, I love that arc coming out of New Hampshire, a hotbed of political activity overrunning the state, it seems, every 4 years. And then down to D.C., and then being hooked on politics, and now Politics and Media 101. So tell our audience what it is, why you're doing it, where to find it, and maybe what your role is along with Geoff Browning.
Yeah, so they can find it on any podcast app. Our website is pm101.live, and then they just type in politics space, the plus sign space media space 101. And what we are doing is similar to you. We are bringing on voices from the left. We are bringing on voices from the right. It's not going to be screaming. It's going to be an intelligent conversation about the most pressing political issues today, but also 10 years from now. And What makes our podcast unique is I'm a DC insider. Geoff Browning worked for 10 years in the House and in committees. And he's kind of like your Brian. He's our podcast producer, music, and really makes the trains run on time. What we're doing that is unique, though, in addition to getting all of these big name guests like John Dickerson, Whip Clyburn, Eric Erickson from the right, and Anna Kasparian from the left, is I mentioned New Hampshire. So in New Hampshire, when I was a kid, I listened to President Obama speak in a room filled of 200 people. It was a small room, no bigger than the size of a first floor house. Everyone was jam packed. He was running for president. And he gave this thunderous speech where you could just feel the emotion building, his energy from the stage. And I was a Republican at the time, and everybody was captivated. And then he answered questions from the audience, from everyday citizens. So our show is different in that we give that 400 level political class in the interview for 30 minutes, and then we open it up to the audience for two reasons: to build civic engagement, but also to check for our own bias. We get Republicans and Democrats asking guests questions that they want to hear. So I think it's a unique atmosphere, and we're really trying to just bring people together to listen to the same source of news.
That's outstanding, and I applaud your efforts on this. What's your business model? How are you getting funding to do this, and what do you hope for the show to become?
Yes. So we are in partnership with Clubhouse, and that definitely helps. And they're a great partner. We want our show to become something similar to yours, where it's a YouTube TV, Substack across all the different channels, and also a political newsletter, which will be the heart of it, where we are giving that nonpartisan. We are using our insider information, the way we can understand the information, and just distill it to people in quick bites so that they can, if they're waiting tables, if they're working in the corporate world, just read it real quick and then forget about DC.
That's great. Well, look, I think there's a great opportunity in the marketplace there. So are you on a subscription model, advertising model? Do you have your corporate sponsors? How are you going about funding your venture?
Right now, it's through some sponsors, but it's really a bootstring operation. It's not too capital intensive, so
Mhm.
it's easy for us to produce these shows. It's pretty cheap, and now we're just focusing on building it out.
Terrific. Well, let's dive into the political landscape, if we could, a little bit.
Yeah.
What are the issues Americans care about the most today? What's your audience telling you and your guests?
Yeah, so it's the audience, the guests, and then I did have experience working in Congress for a member of the Tea Party, and then the RNC, and then a political appointee for a governor. I think it's pretty universal, and please tell me what you're hearing from your guests and your audience as well. But I think it's security, and that's number one, two, and three, whether it be national and physical security. So for the
Mhm.
country, for your family, you don't want to get shot by a police officer, no matter who you are. And then economic security. So being able to put food on the table right now, but also the American dream, which is creating a better life for your children. And that is very important. And these things are nothing revolutionary. So I'd be interested to hear what you think the most important issues are.
Well, hopefully, I'll be on your show and we'll go into that in detail. But people want the fundamentals. They want their government to work. When they read a news source, they want to be able to trust it. And when you look at the big issues in the country, healthcare, the largest vertical market in the largest economy in the history of the world, and we have an idiotic financing system. That's about as kind as I can put it. It's really have to improve to get up to the level of idiotic. We haven't decided what we're going to do about firearms in the country. And we have people, in my perspective, that are think they're advantaged by being on one side, and other people that think they're advantaged for being here. And meanwhile, we're losing Americans to death because we can't keep the guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them. Um, that's two of them. Then being able to build a life. And we are past the post World War II economy where it was an automotive economy. U.S. companies had 75% of the world market, and there were middle-class standards of living for working in those industries and related industries. Now, the biggest companies in the world, Amazon. Is Amazon putting middle-class workers into nice homes so they can send their kids to good schools, so that they can fund a college education, put a boat in the driveway? That, to me, is what is puzzling to Americans. And then you mentioned security, of course, is what's the face of the country? What should it be? And should people feel safe, both internationally as well in their own homes?
I agree.
So how do you think our political system is doing on these big issues from an insider's perspective?
Thank you for listening or watching this segment of Richard Helppie's The Common Bridge. On Substack, you can access the full archive and bonus columns, podcasts, and interviews for only $5 a month. At Substack.com, search for The Common Bridge and subscribe.